Hey man, Shane here. The best way to stimulate muscle growth is with a style of training called hypertrophy training. Bodybuilders use it to build more aesthetic physiques. Powerlifters and strongmen use it to build bigger muscles that can lift heavier weights. And when my business partner Marco was coaching professional and Olympic athletes, he'd use it to help them build muscle in a way that would make them bigger, stronger, faster, and tougher. Hypertrophy training is also great for regular people. I'm not a bodybuilder or any sort of athlete, and I used it to gain a lean 70 pounds, fix up my posture, look better, feel better, and improve all of my health markers, making my life better in almost every way. Then I spent 15 years helping other people get those same benefits. And I want to help you get those benefits too. So in this video, I'll give you a free workout program and I'll teach you exactly how to follow it, step by step, even if you've never lifted weights before. By the end, you'll know how to build muscle with a pair of adjustable dumbbells, in a barbell home gym, or with a full gym membership. I gained my first 20 pounds in my basement because I was too nervous to lift weights around other people. Then I mustered up a little courage and I gained my next 30 pounds at a commercial gym. Then I built this barbell home gym and I gained my last 20 pounds here. All of it works. The important thing is that you have weights that are light enough for you to lift right now, and then you need to be able to make them heavier as you grow stronger. If you need help buying equipment, or if you have questions about anything else, drop a comment below and I'll help you figure it out. All right, let's delve into it. The first part of hypertrophy training is knowing what exercises to do. To start, we can break down your body into 4 main muscle groups. You have your squatting muscles, like your quads and glutes, and you can train them with exercises like goblet squats, barbell squats, and split squats. You have your pressing muscles, like your chest, triceps, and shoulders, and you can train those with exercises like push-ups, bench presses, and overhead presses. Then you have your hinging muscles, like your hamstrings, glutes, and spinal erectors, which you can train with exercises like deadlifts and Romanian deadlifts. And then your pulling muscles, like your back muscles and biceps. You can train those with pull-ups, pull-downs, and pullovers, and rows. That means with just 4 movement patterns, you can train almost all the muscles in your body. And most of these exercises have beginner variations, which makes it even simpler to stimulate muscle growth. For example, goblet squats make it easier to squat deeper, they bulk up most of the postural muscles in your upper body, and they give your arms a bit of extra stimulus. The only downside is that a dumbbell can only get so heavy, so at some point you'll need to grab a second dumbbell, switch over to a barbell, or hop over to the leg press machine. Another good example is the chin-up. Chin-ups are an incredible exercise, but you already need to be strong to do them. So you may need to start with lowered chin-ups, lat pull-downs, or dumbbell pullovers. Then, as you get stronger, you can switch over to bodyweight chin-ups, and then eventually to weighted chin-ups. So, I'll give you a workout routine that starts with beginner variations, but that also lets you pick more advanced variations if you want to. I'll also link you to tutorial videos where Marco will teach you how to do whichever exercises you pick. Whatever variations you're doing, these 4 types of exercises will give you the foundation of your workout routine. And if you don't care that much about building muscle, that's all you need. You can follow a simple, minimalist routine that will give you a strong, healthy, and athletic body. But if you're coming at this with a passion for building muscle, then it also helps to do isolation exercises right from the beginning, especially as a beginner. The first reason is that isolation exercises are simple, making it easier and safer to push your muscles harder, even if your coordination isn't very good yet, which means you can stimulate more muscle growth during your first few weeks of training. The second reason is that some muscles don't grow very well from compound exercises. Those tend to be the ones that cross more than one joint, like your biceps. Your biceps want to flex your arms and pull them forward. But when you're doing pulling exercises, you're flexing your arms and pulling backwards. That prevents your biceps from fully contracting, and it means that they'll only grow about half as fast as your back muscles from pulling exercises. So, if you want bigger arms, you could add bicep curls for your biceps, tricep extensions for your triceps, and lateral raises to bulk up the sides of your shoulders, your side delts. You could also add exercises for your calves and neck, but I wouldn't worry about that yet. A good rule of thumb is to get your upper arms, neck, and calves around the same size. And most guys start off measuring 14 to 15 inches around their necks and calves. So you don't need to worry about them until your arms are at least that big. What I do recommend for beginners though is adding in some core training. The most popular ab exercises are crunches and leg raises, but I recommend starting with exercises like planks, loaded carries, and dead bugs, because they'll teach you how to maintain a strong posture under load, which will improve your strength and technique on almost every other exercise, from push-ups to squats to deadlifts to overhead presses. When you're lifting weights, you want to lift the weight all the way up and then lower it all the way down, as deep as you can, seeing if you can get a nice stretch at the bottom. That's called a repetition, a rep. As a beginner, you might not have the coordination or mobility to go all the way down yet, but it's important to practice going as deep as you can because the bottom part of the range of motion stimulates more muscle growth, especially in the distal parts of your muscles, like the bottom of your biceps or the outsides of your chest. There's more than one way to lift weights properly, but a good rule of thumb is to explode the weight up, then lower it back down under control, back into a nice strong starting position, and then explode the weight back up again. That doesn't mean you should lift recklessly or swing the weights around, just that you should give the exercise your very best effort right from the very beginning of the range of motion, trying to move it as fast as you possibly can. When you get close to failure, you might not be able to move the weight very fast, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that the intention is there, that you're trying to move it fast. Then, on the way down, it might take 2 or maybe 3 seconds, but you don't need to count how many seconds it takes. Just focus on resisting the weight as you carefully guide it back down. If you've watched a bodybuilder lift weights, this might seem a little strange. Some bodybuilders like to lift weights very slowly, maintaining constant tension, feeling their muscles work. That isn't wrong. You can build muscle by lifting slowly too, and it might be good if you're over 60 years old or recovering from an injury. Otherwise, most research shows you'll gain a little more muscle and far more strength and athleticism if you lift more powerfully, giving every repetition your full effort right from the very beginning of the range of motion. Most bodybuilders like to focus on feeling their muscles doing the work. They call it the mind-muscle connection. It isn't wrong to do that. You can build mountains of muscle that way. But if you look beyond bodybuilding, there's an even better approach. When you're walking, you don't need to consciously think about which muscles you're contracting. In fact, if you focus on contracting individual muscles, you'll lose your subconscious ability to walk, and you'll get worse at walking. The same thing is true when lifting weights. Your body doesn't want you to focus on your muscles. It wants you to focus on what you're trying to accomplish. When you're deadlifting, push the ground away from you. When you're doing bicep curls, throw the bar through the ceiling. Focus on exploding the weight up and lowering it back down under control. If you can do that, your technique will improve faster, you'll gain more strength and athleticism, and you'll build a little more muscle. A classic bodybuilding set is 8 to 12 repetitions in a row before resting, and that's perfect. If you do low rep sets, you'll be able to lift more weight, but you won't be able to do as much total work per set, so it will take you more sets to stimulate the same amount of muscle growth, making your workouts less efficient. If you do high rep sets, you'll be able to do more total work, but the burn in your muscles can become unbearable, and your cardiorespiratory system might not be able to keep up, provoking greater endurance adaptations but stimulating less muscle growth. That's why a moderate rep range of 8 to 12 reps is so popular. It gives you the best of both worlds. But you shouldn't stay between 8 to 12 reps on all your exercises all the time. On some of the bigger exercises, like deadlifts, you're working a tremendous amount of muscle, so you might want to lower the rep range a little, doing more like 4 to 8 repetitions. That way, your sets are a little bit less tiring and it's easier to focus on getting stronger. And on some of the smaller exercises, like lateral raises, you might be able to do as many as 20 or even 30 repetitions before being overwhelmed by pain and without your cardiorespiratory system taking over. There's also some evidence showing that using a variety of rep ranges is better for building muscle. So, a good workout program might focus on that 8 to 12 rep range while also going lower and higher when it makes sense to. When you finish a set, you'll need to rest to recover your strength. Resting for 2 minutes is a good default. That's long enough to regain most of your strength, but short enough to keep your workouts dense, intense, and effective. But that's just a rule of thumb. It's okay to rest for 3 to 5 minutes when you're doing big compound exercises like squats and deadlifts. It's also fine to rest for only a minute when you're doing smaller exercises like bicep curls or lateral raises. You might even want to use shorter rest periods on some bigger exercises like push-ups so that you adapt to recover faster. One thing to watch out for is that sometimes beginners feel nauseous when they rush through their sets too quickly. If that happens to you, then take as much rest as you need and gradually shorten your rest times every workout until you're moving through your sets at a good pace. On the other hand, the fitter you are and the less muscle mass you're working and the less weight you're lifting, then the easier it is for your body to recover between sets. So if you're a skinny guy who's in good shape and you aren't lifting very much weight yet, then you should be able to blast through your sets much faster than a big powerlifter who's twice as heavy and lifting 4 times as much weight. There's a trick you can use too, supersets. The muscles you're working need a couple minutes of rest between sets, but the rest of your body doesn't. So, while your quads, glutes, and spinal erectors are resting between sets of squats, you can drop down and do a set of push-ups, or jump up and do a set of chin-ups, or you could do some of your core exercises. There are different ways of doing supersets, but a good default is to do your first exercise, rest for a minute, do your second exercise, rest for another minute, and then go back to your first exercise. Supersets are optional. They don't affect muscle growth at all, but they do improve your fitness, and they also make your workouts about 30% shorter with no downside. So, the workouts in the description are organized to make it more convenient to do supersets if you want. When you first start lifting weights, your muscles are very sensitive, making it easy to stimulate muscle growth. That's why beginners go through a period of making newbie gains, where they can build muscle incredibly quickly. But when your muscles are so sensitive, it's also very easy to overwork them, which can cause up to a week of crippling muscle soreness. You'll hear of guys having trouble going up the stairs after squats, or having trouble sitting upright in chairs after deadlifts. And a little bit of that is fine, that's part of the joy of building muscle, but your body can only produce so many growth resources per day, and it's better to invest them into building bigger muscles rather than wasting them on repairing excessive muscle damage that you didn't need to cause in the first place. You also want to make sure you show up to your next workout feeling recovered and strong. The trick is to start with just 2 sets per exercise. That's enough to maximize your rate of muscle growth during that first week, and it will make your muscles stronger and also tougher. And because your muscles are growing tougher, that means next week when you repeat the workout, you could add a 3rd set to some of your exercises. And the week after that, when your muscles are tougher still, you could add a 4th. The idea is to build up to at least 10 sets per muscle per week. That tends to be ideal for most people during their first few months of lifting weights. As you get more advanced, you might be able to benefit from even more, but we can unpack those bags after you've arrived in muscle paradise. A common beginner mistake is to feel tired or sore and then use that as an excuse to skip a workout, but they're doing it backwards. Instead of waiting for the energy to start your workout, you should start your workout to give yourself the energy. The beginning of a workout isn't very intimidating. It starts with a warm-up routine to limber up your stiff muscles, get rid of any lingering muscle soreness, and start shifting you into fight or flight mode, which will flood you with the vigor you need to finish the workout. There are 3 ways you can warm up. The first is to do some quick drills to improve your mobility and exercise technique. These are optional, but they only take a couple of minutes, and most beginners find them helpful. I'll link a tutorial video in the description. The second way is to practice the main movement patterns with light weights. This is optional too, but it does a good job of raising your body temperature and giving you energy, kind of like how some people like to hop on a treadmill or a stationary bike for 5 minutes. This is the same thing, it's just we're using those 5 minutes to practice lifting instead. We have a tutorial video for this too. The third way to warm up is to do warm-up sets, where you do gradually heavier sets of your first exercise. It's okay to skip the other 2 ways of warming up, but I wouldn't skip this one. Let's say your first exercise is goblet squats. You'd start with a very light weight and do 10 easy reps, focusing on lifting with great technique. Then you'd add some weight and you'd do another 5 reps, this time focusing on lifting more explosively. Those reps should feel more challenging, but you should finish the set feeling like you could have done plenty more. After that, you're ready to do your first real work set. Let's talk about how to do that. The best way to find the right weight to lift is to do gradually heavier warm-up sets until you find a weight that's challenging enough to count as a working set. You've already done some easy warm-up sets, so add a little bit more weight and do the number of reps you're supposed to do. Let's say 10 reps. If you get those 10 reps and feel like you could have done a few more, then the weight is too light, so take a moment of rest and then go a little bit heavier. Keep doing heavier and heavier warm-up sets until you're struggling to lift the weight with proper technique by the end of the set. Don't worry too much about getting exactly 10 repetitions. The rep target is a loose target. If you don't think you can get all 10, then it's okay to stop at the 8th or 9th rep. Or if the weight isn't quite challenging enough, then you could grind out an 11th or 12th rep. Either way, you're still well within the range that's perfect for stimulating muscle growth, so you're doing great. The most important thing is that you push yourself hard enough to challenge your muscles. That's how you prove to your body that you aren't strong enough yet, and that it ought to invest in the arduous process of building bigger muscles. You don't always need to go all the way to failure, with failure being defined as the point where you can't lift the weight anymore with proper technique, but you do need to make sure you're getting close, especially if you're a beginner. That's because you need to start practicing pushing hard, and you also need to learn exactly where failure is. A good rule of thumb is to make sure you're getting within about 3 reps of failure on your big compound exercises. That means if someone had you at sword point and told you to keep going, you'd be able to get 1 or 2 or maybe 3 more repetitions before your form broke down and they stabbed you. We call that leaving 3 reps in reserve, 3 RAR. The problem is that it's difficult to know exactly how far from failure you are. That's okay for now, but it's important to develop that skill. So, on your isolation exercises, you can take some of your sets all the way to total failure. Isolation exercises don't demand as much effort from your postural muscles, they aren't as fatiguing, and pushing yourself harder on them stimulates a bit more muscle growth. There are some other exercises you could take to failure too. If you fail on push-ups or chin-ups or rows or pull-downs, all that happens is that the range of motion gets a little bit smaller. It won't make the exercises more dangerous and it won't ingrain bad habits, and it isn't even all that fatiguing. However, if you take your earlier sets to failure, then it might hamper your performance on your later sets, and you might wind up getting fewer reps overall. So on your earlier sets of bicep curls, stop right before you think your biceps are about to give out, saving a little bit of energy for your other sets. Then on your last set of curls, you can give it everything you have and push the set all the way to total failure. That way, you learn what true failure feels like, and you also learn what it feels like to be 1 or 2 reps shy of failure. You'll start to notice when the weight slows down, you'll feel when your muscles are about to give out, and you'll get really good at gauging how many reps you're leaving in reserve. If an exercise hurts your joints or tendons, or if you think it might cause an old injury to flare up, then it's okay to be more cautious. Maybe that means staying a little further away from failure on your deadlifts. But challenge yourself where you can. If you're going easier on your deadlifts, then you can use the extra energy you're saving to savage your biceps. One of the biggest beginner mistakes is to hear that building muscle is slow and then to assume that you need to be patient before seeing any signs of progress. That's too risky. If you aren't seeing measurable signs of progress from week to week, then there's no guarantee that those weeks will add up to anything at all. 0 plus 0 is 0, and it doesn't matter how many more weeks of 0 you add to that. No amount of patience or persistence will save you. So, however much weight you're lifting and however many reps you get, you have to write it down, and then you have to fight to do a little bit better next week. That's how you guarantee you're making gradual progress from week to week, and it's also how you track that progress. It's called progressive overload. When you challenge your muscles, they adapt by growing bigger and stronger, and the stronger they get, the more it takes to challenge them. So, to continue challenging them, you need to lift a little bit more than last time. And when you succeed at lifting a little bit more than last time, you know it's working. You know you're succeeding at getting stronger, which means that all you need to do is keep going. That's how you make gradual progress that adds up to a dramatic transformation. The simplest way to progress is to add weight whenever you hit your rep target. So let's say the workouts have you doing bicep curls for sets of 10 repetitions. When you get all 10 of those reps in your final set of curls, you add more weight, usually about 5 pounds. When you add that weight, you might not be able to get quite as many reps. So it might take a week or 2 to build back up to 10 reps in your final set, at which point you can increase the weight again. That's how you get bigger and stronger over time. Sometimes it might make more sense to use a different type of progression. For example, with a bodyweight exercise like push-ups, there's no easy way to add incrementally more weight, so it makes more sense to focus on adding repetitions, doing as many reps as possible, AMRAP. Do as many as you can, write down how many you get, and then try to get more reps next time. For example, if you get 15 push-ups in your first set, 10 in your second, and 9 in your third, that's 34 total reps. That means in your next workout, you should try to get at least 35 total reps. Eventually, when you can do 20 or 30 push-ups per set, the exercise is getting too light, so you can make the push-ups harder by raising your hands up on dumbbells or parallettes, raising your feet up, or switching to dips. The other type of progress you can make is to increase your range of motion. A deeper squat is a better squat, so it's always okay to lift lighter if that lets you sink deeper. Same with going all the way down on your chin-ups or bringing your chest to the floor when doing push-ups. But otherwise, focus on adding reps or adding weight. At this point, we've covered all the most important principles of muscle growth. All that's left to do is organize them into a workout program. A vigorous workout can stimulate anywhere from 1 to 4 days of muscle growth, depending on how hard you train, how many sets you do, and how tough your muscles are. This particular workout program should stimulate about 2 to 3 days of muscle growth, meaning that you should be able to benefit from training your muscles every 2 to 3 days. The simplest way to do that is with 3 full body workouts per week. You stimulate every muscle, take a day or 2 of rest to let those muscles recover and grow, and then stimulate them again. You'll probably show up to that next workout a little bit sore, but also a bit bigger and stronger. That extra strength should reassure you that you've recovered enough to benefit from another workout, And that lingering soreness hints that you're getting an overlapping stimulus that will keep you growing all week long. These 3-day full-body workout routines are a classic, tried and true way of training that's ideal for most beginner and intermediate lifters. It was also the most popular way for advanced bodybuilders to train back in the 50s and 60s, back when all the bodybuilders were still natural. If you want to train less often, you can go through the workout routine a little bit slower, doing just 2 workouts per week. You won't build muscle quite as fast, but you'll still make steady progress and you'll still get all the long-term health benefits. If you'd rather train more often, you can split your body up into different muscle groups. For example, if you want to train 4 days per week, you could alternate between training your upper body and lower body, like this. If you wanted a 5th day, you could add a 3rd upper body workout. But if you have all that extra time and energy, it's often better to spend it doing cardio. That will give you a more balanced overall workout routine, giving you greater health benefits, and you'll build muscle just as fast. Once you've stimulated muscle growth, you need to give your muscles the resources they need to grow: enough protein, food, and rest. That's what will allow you to lift more weight in your next workout. A good rule of thumb is to eat at least 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day and get at least 7 hours of sleep every night. But it's possible that you could benefit from more. You might want to aim for a full gram of protein per pound of body weight, and you might want to give yourself the opportunity to sleep for at least 8 hours per night. The food part is a little bit more complicated because it depends on how much body fat you have. If you're overweight or skinny fat, then you can try to burn your extra body fat for energy, which is called body recomposition. It works great for most beginners, but it only works if you really do have extra body fat to burn, and your genetics play into how lean you can get before you stop burning body fat for muscle. You'll know it's working if you're getting stronger on most exercises, most workouts. If you're thin or lean, then you'll need to get the extra energy from eating more calories, which is incredible for building muscle, but can also be quite difficult. If you need help with that, that's what the last video was about. Alright, that's it for now. The workout routine is linked below, so are the exercise tutorial videos. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you liked the video, thank you. I hope to see you in the next one.